Okay, so welcome to this last track of CELUM 2021 on a sunny autumn afternoon here in Linz. Thanks for sticking with us here in the audience. Timo, it's 4, okay? 4, Timo, for you. And of course for you who are joining online, I hope you understand that we started a little earlier. You'll get the full recording anyway. And I hope you get the opportunity to ask questions, obviously, at the end of my presentation. We'll also have Roman monitoring the questions in the chat, so feel free to post them, and we'll try to answer them either straight away or at the end of the presentation. Right, so this is about Nova, right? An upgrade to Nova UI, our new user interface, a new experience, let's say, for power users, from everything from power users to consuming users, in which we invested heavily the last 2 years, and which now with the release 21.9 that's about to happen end of September, I think we have a very round package, a very complete package now for everybody to be able to migrate over to Nova now. And so what are we going to look at? So first of all, just a brief look at which user interfaces we have in Content Hub, right? There are 3, and what audience they are for. Then we'll take a short tour through Nova UI, in its latest iteration, starting with a little theory, let's say, and differences on a slide deck basis, and then into the Content Hub product demo proper. And as a last agenda item, we're going to discuss briefly what it will take to get from an existing instance that runs Advanced UI for all users to get to a state where everybody can use Nova. Okay, so the Content Hub UI, and there are 3 of them, UIs. Obviously Nova UI. Now starting with 21.9, it's really the default UI for all users. And for the consuming users, obviously there is browse, search, either via metadata or via similarity, share content, download obviously in different qualities, subscribe with Drive, so triggering the sync between the repository and the local machine, receive notifications obviously if something changes, then there are emails that are sent with a summary of the changes. And users also have the ability to create favorites to get to points of content or the collections that they're most likely to work with very easily. We'll see that in a second anyway. For content creators and power users, obviously upload, including duplicate check, with also the capability of bulk uploading new versions on existing assets in retouch processes and so on. Obviously classify and tag, so attributes, assign attributes, free text and so on to your assets, organize content, create collections, move them around, manage structures, keyword tags, taxonomy, start workflow, and finally, as an extension to the share capability, also manage smart views, so the spotalization capability of Content Hub. So as I've said, so a very, very complete package. And starting now with 21.9, the default UI. Nova, just to also mention that Nova is part of every shipment since 1812, so since 2018 actually. And it used to be enabled explicitly, and from 21.9 on it will be enabled per default. Advanced UI, so that's what we call our existing UI, advanced UI, because there are some use cases that are more, well, extending the power user use cases into the admin use cases. That's why it's advanced UI, right? So it's going to be relevant and continue to be relevant for special user profiles like content orchestrators. So for example, if you're using the YouTube connector or moving image and stuff like that, you will need to go into advanced UI for the time being. And of course, for admins, either business administrators or proper system administrators, because in advanced UI, you still are going to govern permissions, you're going to manage download format groups, you still be able to access user management, group management, and system tasks via advanced UI. And then, of course, for admins, you'll know there is also the configuration management, and this is really for the system administrators, let's say, because accessing this already requires super administrative privileges, and this is for all the background settings, you know, the general instance configuration, terms of use, privacy policy, XMP mapping, and so on. So it's all in there. That's going to stay in there. Right, and if we look at where we want to go in a kind of Endausbaustufe, right? In the end, we're going to add things that are still happening in advanced UI into Nova, like assign roles to users and groups, for example. But other things, the administrative tasks will be migrated over to CMA. But there's no fixed timeline on this. We're going to do this gradually, so no need for waiting on that. So advanced UI will remain part of each release, yeah, but it will lose relevance over time. Okay, and so having said that, we're now going to have a tour through Nova. If you joined this morning already for the How to Modernize Your DAM, this is not news to you. So why Nova AI in the first place? So modern, easy-to-use design, completely new modern tech stack. It allows hands-off onboarding, meaning it comes with its own onboarding tool, showing you around, showing you functionality without having to do trainings, at least not for the core functionality. The user is in the focus, so there's most recently used objects, there is favorites, there is user preferences, so it's really about for the user to be able to optimize how they can work with the system. As you're going to see, there are simple yet powerful content exploration tools, so you're already able to both browse through the structures, but also already filter for wherever you are in the system, so that it's much more convenient to get to the content that is relevant to you. Of course, again, it's brandable, it's extendable, so you can have your color scheme, you can have your logo, so that your users feel at home when using the system. And of course, lastly, but not least, it's fully integrated in the platform, like the CELUM Cloud Platform services, like the AI services like similarity search, drive, and workflow. Okay, most of what we're going to see here, we're going to have in the demo anyway, but just a short summary. Of course, we have, again, duplicate resolution, so there's a check on existing binaries in the repository, right? So that this helps you keeping the repository clean of duplicates, and thereby also, of course, the content more relevant to your users. It's not so well, of course, you also save storage, but that's, since storage is cheap, that's not that much of an issue. It's really about presenting your users with relevant content. It goes even as far as allowing the administrator to decide to actually disallow uploading content that is recognized as a duplicate, so that it's really not possible for a user to upload the exact same file twice. A second kind of tangent use case to the duplicate check is the bulk version update. This is, for example, useful for retouching processes where you would send imagery to an agency or have your in-house creative team retouch photographs or images, and then match those images by file name to update the existing assets in bulk. Again, something we're going to see in the demo. Of course, relevant work integration. So workflow, it says here, right, on the context menu. It's you're able to start workflows, review and approval workflows, for example, directly from Nova UI using Workroom. And as I already mentioned, similarity search is integrated, text extraction is integrated, and object classification or object detection is also an integral part of Nova UI. We still, of course, have our image editor, like we had in Advanced UI, right? And we also now have the text editor that allows you to edit text objects, and we'll see also that we can actually do a markup, so headline, bold, italic, and so on, in a second. Okay, so time for the demo. And I already mentioned this, so I'm going to be transparent here. So I'm going to switch between two systems. So one is our demo environment that is on the latest official release 21.5. And part of the demo I'm going to do now are on our development branch, which is 21.9, the upcoming release end of this month. So normally everything should work out fine. Let's see. No risk, no fun. Switching. Okay, let's probably zoom in a bit. Okay, so logging in into Nova, you're presented with the dashboard. Dashboard is your starting point as a user in Content Hub, which already gives you basically your initial, let's say, welcome. So as I mentioned before, it's brandable, obviously, so you can have your own welcome message, your background image, your logo up here, your own color scheme, again, to make the user welcome. We also have these quick links, can also be customized, obviously, pointing to your internal, to your organization's internal wiki to explain processes, to your internal specific user documentation, if you have such a thing, or to other resources that are relevant to a user at this point. What's also here is loads and loads of sort of help touch points for a user, right? So we have video tutorials here that show the basic, so there's a playlist with basic functionality, browse, search, upload, download, and so on. So there's a starting point there. We have the link to our online help that is searchable, and it's in chapters, and it's really giving an overview of how the system works. But of course, there's also the interactive assistant. And if I would have logged on to the system the very first time, I would have been greeted with this welcome message, and I can now start a tour, for example. So navigate and connect, your settings, and so on. So it will guide you through how to use the system. But of course, I know, and I'm going to show you, so stopping it right there. What's also very visible here again is that there's immediately a list of the objects I as a user recently touched, right? So there's a list of those. I have the ability to define my favorites, to find them already there on the starting page, and to jump to them by just clicking. And of course, there's search, right? So if I want to have something specific in mind that they wanna go for, there's also something I can simply, search and then, jump toward what the results are here. Okay, so and just very briefly, here this is what we call the system bar, where you can switch between different aspects or functionality of the CELUM Cloud. And so Content Hub and work rooms, if you're connected, so that would be here. And as I said, in 21.9, there are some differences because here we have search also prominently, but we'll see that in a second as well. Okay, so that's the welcome. That's the dashboard. That's your starting point as a user. And now, basically, if you want to go to content, as I already said, you either search, you either hit one of your favorites, or you go, for example, here prominently to explore and manage. And what you can already see if you know Advanced UI, for example, your starting point here is all assets, right? So it shows you everything you as a user are allowed to see, and you're not restricted to any of those main tabs, as we used to call them, right? And now, just to give you a short tour of what you see here before we get starting to dig into the content. There's obviously, the usual customization that's possible, card size, preview card sizes that you can do. You can switch to a list view, for example, and back to a card view. And we also have our trusty sidebar again that gives you a short summary of the characteristics of the object you have selected. Now, in the past, in an Advanced UI, you would then go ahead and select one of those main tabs, yeah. And we can still do that, obviously. So Sandbox is a structure that we have defined here to manage content, right? So you still have the tree, you still have the ability to organize your content into those collections, as we call them, and you still obviously are able to, choose the color of those collections and so on and so forth. So that's all still there. But actually, it's also possible to have an experience that is without the tree, because, and that's new now in Nova, that this is where the exploration, this is where navigation and search comes together for the exploration part, because here I can already filter. So I don't need to go to any specific search. I can already do my filtering here in the asset list. I can add filters very easily, and then I simply can look for content that I have created with my user. So no need for a tree, for tree navigation if the user is not really, they don't have to rely on the tree, so they can already use filtering directly here in the asset list to get to the relevant results for them. As you maybe already guessed, this up here is the current context. So I've selected this collection here, Reibox. It's hard to see on the projector actually, but this here is selected. And it tells me that there are 47 elements in here. I could, if I look at the whole system, okay, there's not much my users allowed to see. It's 355 objects. Okay. Yeah, so this is the content that's already in. We will have a closer look at search and filtering in a second on the other system with the updated user journey. But now let's try and get content in here. Right? With Nova, it's as easy as selecting those files, use a drag and drop, and just drop them in there. You'll see the progress bar at the bottom left corner. So while this is going on, I can do other stuff. I can edit other assets. I can create collection stuff and so on and so forth. But now the upload itself, so the transfer of the files to the server has finished, and it tells me, okay, resolve duplicates. Let's do that. And again, if there are duplicates that are detected, the system will not allow the user to finalize the upload before the duplicates aren't resolved. Okay, so here we are in the duplicate check, the duplicate manager, let's say, and the system detected 2 files that are already in the system that are exactly the same, so bit for bit, than the ones I uploaded. And in this demo environment, the keep option is actually allowed. So I can now choose to upload them anyway, even if it's flagged as a duplicate. I could actually, so here are the files I uploaded. This is the list of assets that are found in the system, and I could, for example, also have a detailed look on this duplicate asset. So I can look at the whole asset with, preview, metadata, and all to make a better decision. Let's say I want to keep both. I can do that. And now we're in sort of the tag manager, right? So I've uploaded those files. I've said, okay, the duplicates, I'm fine with those. And also the admin obviously allowed for me to take the decision. And now I have 12 new assets that as of yet have no metadata assigned, right? And the first step, and that hasn't changed, so the first step in the CELUM Content Hub for tagging, for assigning metadata, is to select the asset type. Yeah. And I'm not sure if you can see that properly, but some of those are like action shots, and some of those are like point of sales, placate, billboards, right? So we're going to assign 2 different asset types in this case. So we're selecting the action shots, say assign asset type. Let's call them product content. And so you see now, so we have unassigned assets up here. We have assets that have asset type product content down here. And then the unassigned ones, they are going to get collateral. Those are for point of sale. They're going to be printed in huge formats. Okay, so I've uploaded 12 new files, decided on the duplicates, and now I have 12 new assets, right, with 2 different asset types. I can now already, if I'd want to, I could already assign tagging as well. And as you know, different asset types could mean different metadata fields, right? So if you select all of those, only the fields that both asset types have in common are now available. And if you deselect one of the asset types, then obviously only the ones that are residing on the asset types are here. Okay. Yeah. Well, I could now, go in, edit the metadata. Now for those 7. So while you're editing assets, they're locked for others, as it says up here. So while you're editing the metadata, there is a lock, so that no other user can would now be able to do the same at the same time as you. We still are able to have different metadata languages. You can switch languages up here. You have lookup that allows you to filter the fields to jump to where your fields are. And of course, there are still, different it respects the existing configuration, so you still, of course, have the ability to define, okay, which fields are mandatory and which are optional. And the system will allow you to, or the system shows you at any time whether or not you fulfill all of those requirements. So we could, for example, say new. So that's this required field filled out, and there are no other ones, so the warning goes away. Okay, yeah, let's say that's enough. Metadata for now. Save our changes and finish the upload. Now I have uploaded those files to the system. I've already assigned the asset type, and it's as easy as that. And the key really here is that the user is guided through the whole process by the upload manager, let's say, by the duplicate check and metadata manager. Okay. Yeah, right. So those are in. As I said, another possibility that exists is the bulk upload of versions. Let's have a look at that. So these are pictures or images from CELUM 2018, which actually also happened here. This was when we celebrated the new building in which we are in now. And just to show you, I can obviously, if there's no conflict, I can obviously also simply finish the upload without tagging at this point, right? Okay, and so the images are now in, and let's say there was an order to retouch those images, and to now I want to upload in bulk the new binaries. Actually, what I did was I prepared, I just shifted the names around, right, so that there's a new image for the same name. So don't be surprised that there's no really difference to the actual images, but it will just shift a bit to the right. What I'm going to do now here is I can say upload new version. So upload new version has to happen in the context of a specific scope, either a specific folder or collection, but it can also be done on the overall scope, upload new version. And so let's do that. Select those images. Again, the snack button there informs me about the progress, and yes, the bulk updater found 9 matching versions. Let's reread those. And here you have, you see basically that I shifted the names. So the current version is the C, new version is the building, existing version is the building and this view, and so on and so forth. But here, I simply update all those existing binaries with the new files. And again, this use case is typically, it's about retouching, it's about slight modifications of existing assets. Yeah, and that just so confirm that this is all right like that, and that's what happens. Okay, so let's go back, have a look at the assets, because obviously the asset list only shows the very high-level information, like the thumbnail, the asset name, and of course still the bullets, right? So that tell you about the state of an asset with one glance. But if you go in here, for example, double-click brings up the detail view. You still have, of course, the larger preview that also allows you to zoom in. For documents, you're allowed to, of course, you can page through there. Video allows playback and so on and so forth, so as you expected it. We also have some actions appear already in the detail view, so you can directly share this with third parties, so either via the direct link or create a pin link. That's also possible, or you can choose to download the file directly here in one of the defined qualities. We'll have a look at download in a second. Of course, there's still, the meat of our system, the metadata, which you can also edit from here. So trigger edit metadata. We have external references. This is, for example, if it's published to a CMS or YouTube or any other downstream system, you'll find the info here. File information is the classical raw data that we extract from any file once it's when it's uploaded. XMP, EXIF, and all of those kind of things. Asset relations, of course, if I create those, I'll say that also in a second. And similar assets, this is where the KI, or the AI, the artificial intelligence service, is integrated. It shows me similar assets, and of course here, this is one of those assets where I specifically said, okay, I want to upload the duplicate. That's why it's showing me the other one, which is the exact same image right there. But of course, on the right side, I have the other proposals, and it's all about bikes and mountains. So it does a quite nice job here of showing me the matching, matching content. Okay, so again, detail view. Just double click on the object in the asset list, and we'll bring up the detail view. What else? Of course, asset relations still as you're used to with drag and drop. You select, you take your source asset, you drop it on the target, and it asks you, okay, which type of relation is it? Again, according to your system configuration and so on. So no big deal. But what's kind of special now in Nova is that we've designed Nova in a way that it can be used also on, for example, a tablet class device. So it's also possible to use Nova without the mouse. And so therefore, for example, if you would be on a tablet, you could select two assets and then use the action menu here to access create relation, for example. So you can actually use this with a finger and not just with a mouse. The same goes for all other operations. So for example, obviously, if I want to move an asset into another folder, I can do so either via context move to or action menu move to, and but of course on a PC class system, let's get rid of the help here. It also works with drag and drop, where the icon will show you whether it's allowed or not.
Yes. Finally.
You're welcome.
Yes. Thank you.
Right. What else? Let's talk about search. Let's talk about filtering. Yeah. So again, let's go back here to all assets. Let's look at the whole repository. In this system, there are 2,600 assets, a bit more than on the demo environment. Of course, the most simple thing any user could do is click in the search bar up there. What it does with just this one click is, again, it presents you the list of those assets that you recently modified or worked on or uploaded. Yeah? So that's this. But of course, let's for example tip November. And again, the projector really has a contrast issue because here, this is what's called a chip, right? There would be a gray background around this November 11. And what this means here is that for the term November, there are 11 hits in the system. So there's faceting going on to tell you how much of those it does find. And so for November and Sony, Sony is 1, November are 11. But obviously there's eine Schnittmenge here, so that it's both. So those chips are there obviously for this full text search, let's say, but you can, as a user, you have the ability to say, okay, in which fields and which kind of information in the system these terms are searched for. And of course, there's the asset name, there's file name, there's user information who created it, who modified it. There's all kinds of, the metadata information, the XMP fields, the tag references, and so on and so forth. And of course, content. So where with the full text search, we're obviously also able to look into content, the textual content of those files. So for the user, it's very easy to configure, right? So if I'm only interested in the search term being relevant for the asset name and the file name, I can remove those other checkboxes, and you see that the overall result, the amount of results got reduced at this point. It's also very easily reset. Obviously, that still needs fixing. Again, this is the preview build, but you get the idea. So that was like kind of full text search, and very easily, without having to go to the dedicated search panel, just where you are in the asset list. And this works, of course, across all assets, but it also works within a specific context. So as you can see now that I switched to content, the same search term doesn't give me any results anymore. But of course, I can combine. The text I enter here with other filters. So that's not an issue. So for example, if I want to have, let's say, chair, it gives me chairs, and I want only those chairs that are approved. So 8 results. Before it was 9, 8 of which there are 8 chairs with approved set to yes. I can do that with all kinds of filters by adding those here. Let's say, I don't know, content language. So I'm adding the content language filter, and I want to see only those chairs with content language English. Let's see. Okay, there are 3. So search term chair, approved yes, content language English gives me 3 results across the whole scope of the content. So out of 2,600 assets, there are 3 results for my given filter values. What I can also do is, if that is a search that I need, or a filter setting that I will repeatedly use, I of course can save these settings and to reuse them at any point later in time. Okay. Okay. So we've had a look at the dashboard. We had a look at upload process with duplicate check and with bulk upload of versions. We had a look at metadata, at tagging, at adding metadata. We had a look at browsing and filtering. Of course, now that I've found the content that I want to use, I can download this content to my local machine. And again, it's of course selecting those files and choose the download format that I want, or the quality I want to download those files in. In the preview build, obviously there are not much, there's not much selection, so let's go back to the demo environment. Say download, and I can now select the quality I want to download those images in. Let's say watermarked image. Like with the upload, there's a snack bar with the progress, and it shows, converting 5 files with an indication of how far along the process is. And now that the conversion engine is done with rendering those files, it will create the zip file and prepare it for download. And again, while this is happening, I can still do other things in the system. There's no need for me to wait for it like I did just now. And having a look at the images that we gotten now. Yeah, so there is our bike image with the watermark applied. Okay. So again, obviously, as I already mentioned in the slide deck, there is also the image editor that allows you to go in and apply any of those predefined aspect ratios. That's something the administrator can do in the CMA. So that's it's a live configuration change that the admin can do. And let's say we want to have a quadrat, and so obviously the bike should be somewhere in there. So let's apply this, and I want to download this in optimized for web quality, and like this, I can easily get me a dedicated image rendered for my specific use case that requires 1,000 by 1,000 pixels. Okay, we've downloaded those images. Or let's try it like this way. Any questions so far? No?
Oh, yes.
You do. Yeah.
Surprise, surprise. This new download, thank you. This new download with the image editor, you're downloading only.
Yes.
No plans to make a new variant, a new linked asset?
We have that in the backlog to be able to
Cool.
create a new
asset
and link it back to the existing
cool.
one. Mm-hmm.
Can you explain why the choice of the wording collection instead of folders, instead of nodes, instead of blah blah? Because collections used to be something a little bit special for the last 20 years, and now everything is a collection, and explaining this creates a little bit confusion.
Well, the thing is, in the past, folder was too specific because, for example, if you look at the product structure, it wouldn't have been a folder really, and the generic term node never really catched on, so everybody was
a little bit too technical.
What?
A little bit,
so collection, as in collecting objects of the same, because they share obviously something in common. Otherwise, they would not be in the same collection. Yeah, so that's why the generic term now is collection, even though obviously you still are able to have those different kinds of trees. Like of course you still have your workspace. It would be called probably in a normal deployment. That you still have your keyword tag tree, your taxonomy obviously. You still have your product tree and so on. So it's still there. It's just that you select the structure up there, and the generic term now is collection.
And so this structure, going back to advanced UI, would be a tab.
Yes.
So now, what's the naming convention for a tab? Because there's no more tabs. So it would
collection type.
Collection type.
Mm-hmm. I think there's even a slide for this.
Okay.
I thought I did one.
Yeah, still.
Yeah, there was going to be when we talk about the update, coming from Advanced to Nova in a second after the demo, we'll have a slide on that as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions? Sure.
Is there no upload basket anymore?
No.
So I have to select a specific collection, and then all the assets I want to upload are getting in there.
Exactly. Or in the case of if there's no collection selected, like on the all assets or on the dashboard, what's happening is, let's try any others that are not yet on there. Let's try these. You just drop them here, still, but then it asks you where to put them.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's put them here.
I've got another
Yeah,
question.
sure. Go ahead.
This duplicate check is just on the file name, isn't it?
No.
Okay.
The duplicate check, so there are two things. The duplicate check that's about to prohibit uploading real duplicates, real bit for bit files. This is based on checksum. So it's really about having the exact same file no matter how it's called. And in the use case of updating the existing assets with new versions, this is checking for the name, yes.
I have a follow-up to the duplicate check. When you're uploading and you get the duplicate check window, excuse me, can you reproduce it? You have two buttons.
Yeah.
I would like to submit the need for a third button, a link.
Oh,
button.
But that's on there. That's a good question, Pierre. Thanks. Let me show you.
Okay.
Let me show you. Yeah, it doesn't matter really. So here. Okay, so resolve duplicates. And correctly, it tells me, yes, that those three files are already on there. And it's basically here. So this is, because it does the following. What it says here, it found this Wasserlinien image someplace else. And this button says, okay, link the existing asset to where I wanted to put the uploaded file in the first place.
Okay. So at this point, you're not duplicating the asset?
Yeah.
You're linking it?
Exactly. At this point, I'm linking the existing asset, that's the same file, to where I wanted to put the other, to where I wanted to put my uploaded asset.
Okay. I was expecting link, keep, remove. That's where I was.
Yes, but
the add to.
Yeah, the thing is, potentially there are more than one duplicate, so there would be a list here, right?
Right.
So you could decide, okay, I want to link this, but not the others. That's why this option is not over there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Didn't know it worked as a link. Okay.
Mm-hmm. So, but I forgot to mention this before. So thanks for the question. So this is basically this option here. Yeah. Now we're getting into the groove of things. Yeah.
This function, similar assets.
Yeah.
There was a list with similar assets, yes. In our case, we got a lot of duplicates in our system. It's a historical thing.
Mm-hmm.
So would it be the case when I click on a picture, you would show all duplicates in this section?
Yeah, well,
Could
the thing here is this is not, so this is really visual similarity.
Okay.
So this is not the same check. It's using another method of looking for other assets.
Yes.
It's called a similarity vector, right? And so there's ambiguity. It's not about finding the exact same thing. It's finding similar things. But of course, if you have, it's just like here. So here, this is the currently selected asset, and this is the duplicate I uploaded before, and consciously. But now would be able to one thing could be I can add this to a folder that's called, now I'm saying folder again, to a collection, to a collection that's called to be deleted, right? For example. So this is would be a way to go through the list and clean those up.
And is there a process for like do the checksum check for my whole CELUM, so in a batch to clean up?
No, not yet. No, it's not. But that's something that's going to happen. Yes, because obviously that's something that's very helpful. But it's going to be a system task, and it will be basically putting out a list of those duplicates, of those real duplicate files. Yeah, questions?
We have one online regarding the clipboard. Will the clipboard integration again? Will the clipboard be integrated again? Sorry.
Okay, we're getting this feedback from our customers that already use Nova, and yes, at some point we'll have something that's similar to the clipboard again. So, but currently it's not part of Nova, no. Okay, so let's probably wrap up this little demo by something I forgot to mention before. So of course you're still able to switch languages, right? So UI languages. So that's here where your user kind of avatar is. You still obviously have the options of if you're a locally managed user, change password and so on. So that's there, and also collect to cloud accounts that's necessary for working with Drive and workrooms. Okay. I mean, if there are more questions, we can come back to that later. But now I actually wanted to begin to talk a bit about how to do an update or an upgrade to Nova if you come from Advanced UI. So, pre-extend. But not that one. Not that one. Okay, so upgrade to Nova. Yeah, usually you would actually begin with a kind of stock taking, right? So you familiarize yourself with Nova, how it's used. There are several different options, obviously. So I mentioned the explainer videos. They're available on YouTube. You just have to go to the CELUM channel. You'll find them. Obviously, there's help.celum.com, which is the online help that also explains how to use Nova, for example. If you have a test instance, of course, you're welcome to update or simply enable Nova, because if you run a fairly recent version of Content Hub, it's already in there. Yeah? Albeit probably not with those latest features. Or there's also always the possibility to approach us to get an account on democelum.com, where you can, in a sandboxed environment, try Nova yourself a bit. Well, of course, if you have integrations, if you have marketplace modules, you should do a check whether they're already Nova compatible. Many marketplace modules are back-end only, so if there's no front-end capability or functionality, then typically they're Nova capable out of the box. Most marketplace modules are actually already already there's just a handful that's not, and I think one of those is the first Spirit connector, for example, but all our partners are committed to update their modules as soon as possible. We'll talk a bit about how you can roll out Nova, because you can do a targeted rollout. You can designate specific user groups to have the Nova experience per default, and others still work on advanced UI. Yeah. So we'll talk about a bit how that's possible. But if you want to do that, you need to think about, if you're using those marketplace modules, if they support both UIs at the same time. So that could be an issue. Most of them do, but some don't. Then, of course, you need to check if you have customizations that you've developed yourself or the partner developed. Obviously, those also need adapting if they have functionality that touches the front end. If there's an entry in the context menu or anything like that, then it needs to be adapted. It's very straightforward, but still. And if you have, prepared, painstakingly probably documentation for your users yourself, with screenshots, with describing how processes work, and so on, then also that's something probably that needs updating. I mean, obviously, if you use folder-based processes, and I do mean folder-based processes here, then those folders are still there, right? Just called collections. And it's just a bit different way of finding them, but I mean the process themselves are still valid, right? So it's probably a matter of exchanging the screenshots. Not sure does anybody have custom documentation prepared for their users? You do? Okay.
Yeah, quite a few. Would a listener be transparent for Nova UI? Oops.
No, a listener also needs to be sorry, listener. Just
a listener.
Event listener.
An event system.
No, anything that's purely backend, it doesn't need to be touched.
Be transparent.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Okay. Yeah. So what we've already seen in the demo, there's a bit of a difference when it comes to navigation. And again, what has been called main UI tabs in advanced UI are now the collection types, and you can access them via the drop-down in the tree panel to the left of the application. And the system bar is the element to the very, very left, which allows you to navigate between dashboard, the Explore view, and search, and also, for example, work if you have enabled the integration. Explore view, we've already seen that all assets combines navigation and filtering, and search are the advanced search capabilities. Metadata, there's a slight difference in terms of how they're represented, or how field sets are represented. Now getting a bit technical again. In advanced UI, you were able to group field sets per tabs. Yeah, this is gone. They are now just below each other. So those tabs are still, so where they're ordered, still like you arrange them, but no longer horizontally, but vertically. Yeah. And of course, preparation. Yeah. You basically need to define your rollout strategy. Either you roll it out in a big bang to all your users, or you do targeted approach. Again, also I'll talk about how that works in a second. Obviously it's a good idea to give users a heads up by again probably showing them those, or sending a link to those intro videos that I mentioned on YouTube. That's a very easy way. They're just like 2 to 3 minutes long, and pretty self-explanatory. Where necessary, prepare this custom documentation. By the way, those videos, those links that we have on the dashboard, they're also customizable. Obviously, you can provide your own video clips if you want to. Yeah. And of course, where necessary, adapt your core application customizations. Again, if UI relevant. Backend only things don't have to be touched. And you can make your users feel at home by adapting color scheme, logo, and the quick links, for example, on a dashboard to point them to helpful resources once they have logged in. Yeah, as I already mentioned, you can, since 21.9, Nova is the default UI for every instance, except if you use this targeted rollout. Yeah? So you can define per user group which user groups, when users that are members of those groups log on, they get directed to Nova per default or not. So if you define that, you can do a targeted rollout of Nova, and some users you can choose to leave them on Advanced UI and migrate them to Nova later. What's also new since 21.9 is the ability to actively deny users the capability to switch back to Advanced UI. Ha! Knew that was coming. Yeah, so that's 21.9. That's the September release where this is enabled, where this is possible. You just in the CMA you can switch it. Yeah, so, and typically it's a good idea to update to latest before doing that. Again, 21.9 is just around the corner. Apply the configuration. If you've selected the targeted rollout, activate Nova for the defined user groups. And in the info that you send out about the update, just mention that they can take the tour. For example, and one thing, if you have terms of use and or privacy policy defined in your system, then if a user logs onto Nova for the very first time, they have to re-acknowledge those two. But other than that, there's not much. Well, it changes, a lot changes obviously, but hopefully for the better for every user. Okay, yeah, that would have been my deck and my demo. Any more questions?
Yeah, we have two online.
Yes.
Now three. First one, how many customers already switched their users successfully to the Nova UI?
Very insidious question, successfully. That implies that there are failures. There are, so again, as we mentioned over the course of the last 2 days, not many of our customers are actually on one of the very latest Content Hub releases. But, for example, Danfoss, one of our customers with the most complex customizations and a very big user base, is on Nova since December 2020. So 3 quarters already, and very happy with it. And yeah, others that are also successfully using Nova, obviously. So all our latest customers that we closed this year are starting with Nova anyway, so there's no advanced UI for them, for those power users, basically.
One question is closely connected to this. Are there any plans to turn off the advanced UI, e.g. in 1 or 2 years or so?
Currently not, no. As I mentioned at the beginning of the track, and probably since we started earlier, that was missed if you joined online. There will be some use cases that for the time being will reside with advanced UI, like for example user and group management, until we get those migrated over to CMA, for example. So the advanced UI will remain with us, but obviously it's no longer, and actually has been for the last 1 or 2 years, has not received any new features, just fixes where really necessary. Yeah.
And there's one more. On what basis does AI work? Can it also recognize specific objects, e.g. products, or does it have to be taught to the AI separately? Would this even work in principle in the standard?
The object detection that we have, let's come back here. The object detection that we have uses a generic model to classify content. So it can detect something like a bike, like what it also can detect whether something is foreground or background. So for the example that you see on the screen now, it would say foreground bike, person, and background would be road, sky, mountain, and so on. So that's what it can do. For persons, for example, it's also able to count. Yeah. So clever machine. So it would say 2 persons or 3 persons are on that image. But currently it doesn't detect specific products, for example. Yeah. We are investing in the capability of being able to train the model with custom data, but the thing is though that whenever we are in talks with customers who are interested in that, and when we discuss basically how much effort the training really would be, because we it's the interest wanes, to be honest. So that the training is still a lot of effort that needs to be invested. So while we do want to be able to allow this and have this capability, but and we are on a POC level there, but yeah, once we get talking about how many images you need to provide, and that the runs you need to do to train the model, and that there's actually somebody having to tell the model what's right or wrong, yeah, then it gets tricky.
But isn't it possible to reuse existing metadata which is maintained already? So use the existing data in the Content Hub to train the model?
That would be one thing, yes. But what you still need to do is you can tell the model that this image depicts this product, but obviously you then need to see whether this was successful, right? If you feed the image of the product that's slightly different, it still needs to be say that this is that product, and this needs to be confirmed by somebody, right? Or again, probably, or at least somebody has to provide the data set. Yeah, so you have to have the material for training and the material for falsifying or checking whether the model is correct or working correctly. And there still is there's always going to be a threshold of ambiguity, right? So where it's 100% sure, or only 80% sure, and so where do you put the border? Let's say, yeah.
There's one more online. Please, can you explain more about the metadata changes between Content Hub 6 or other versions and Nova?
There are no changes to the data model per se. So any fields, date, free text, whatever that you ever configured is obviously still there. It's just there's one difference in how they're represented, and this is that the tabs that used to be there in Advanced UI are no longer there in Nova. I think it's best if I just quickly show that. Let's see. So if you're allowed to go Advanced UI, you'll find it here, yeah, in the user settings. Classy. Let's see, information fields. Yeah, so here are tabs, right? General and details. or just let's do it with edit metadata. It's more obvious there. So here I have the two tabs. Well, on the projector again, the contrast there, this is selected, and now this is selected. So those tabs, those are no longer there in Nova. So the field sets that would be on those tabs are simply arranged vertically. Yeah, that's it. But maybe I misunderstood the question, because if you're on a very old Content Hub version, maybe you were actually meaning tags, because that's a new type of field. Well, new, we introduced it with 27, I think, so with a year ago. Yeah. So these tags are a bit like our node reference fields, those dynamic drop-down fields, if you will. But the difference is that with tags, there is actually I don't have the permission here. Let's try the other system. Yeah, so in this case, there's only one asset type, and this is if there's only one asset type, then it's automatically assigned. So that's also still there, like it was on the advanced UI. Let's see, do we have tags here? Yeah. So the difference with tags is that tags can also be dynamically created at the point of entry. Yeah. I'm not sure whether that was the question. Tags are new. They only work in Nova, and they have been around for a year now. They launched in 2017. Any more questions? Pierre.
For example, let's say we have a customer running 5.13.
Okay.
And we want to bring them to Content Hub 21.9.
Mm-hmm.
What would be your recommendation, Reinhard? Should we migrate them straight 5.13 to, or should we do it step by step, 1, 2, 3 steps?
Well, again, the update is one thing. Rolling out Nova is another.
Right.
So you can choose to do the update. Nova is in there. You can choose to set it up in a way that nobody can see Nova at this point.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it will work to migrate the customer straight. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Do you have one? I mean,
No,
okay.
it's just a reflex of mine.
That's clear. Yeah. I mean, if there are no more questions, you're online, okay?
Actually got one more here. If quote-unquote collections in Content Hub no longer exist in Nova, will this information / structure be lost on upgrade?
Yeah, we had this question before in the live audience. It's about the naming of, or the generic term for the structure objects, let's say. We simply call them collections now. And we used to call them nodes, and nobody knew what nodes are, so we thought collections would be a more sensical term, because everybody can imagine what a collection of objects are that share some kind of characteristic to for example, if you put objects in here, this collection is called CELUM, then of course the objects in here, they share something about CELUM, right? So that's the idea. Nobody knew what nodes were. And of course, you still, if your configuration contained a type, a collection type that's called collections, it will be still on here and will be called collections, period. So you don't lose anything, it's on there. Yeah.
Right. Yes, and there's one more that I missed before. However, the topic AI will continue to be pursued in the future at CELUM. To be up to date, what is CELUM's position on this?
Yes, so we are going to add more AI features as we go along. So for now we have the sim search, now we have text extraction and object detection, and I think I mentioned it this morning in the how to keep the DAM relevant talk as well. So one of the things we're looking into is background removal, so freistellen, yeah, of the foreground object driven by KI. And as I also mentioned before here in this talk, is that the learning, so being able to recognize customer-specific objects reliably, that's also something that we are looking into, for example. Yeah. Okay, so thanks to everybody in the room for sticking around that long on a sunny afternoon on a Friday. I hope there was something in it for you, and obviously everyone also online. Again, sorry if you missed the start of the presentation, but the recording will be sent out to you, and you'll have the ability to rewatch. And also, of course, thanks for the questions to keep it interactive a bit. And again, so thanks for joining, and see ya.